going to cover a little bit of this one that I created. If you want the entire thing, I'm happy to give it to you. Just drop me a line below this video and I'll send you a link to the full Google Doc so you have it. But what I wanted to talk about was the fact that hunger tends to be the overriding negative biofeedback during a fat loss phase. And by fat loss phase, I'm not referring to just random dieting. I'm referring to a proper fat loss phase to improve your body composition, the way that we always I talk about with clients on my podcast, everything else. And that is, you are strength training, you have sufficient protein, you're doing some sort of tracking or awareness of your food. You get it over and done with in about 12 to 16 weeks. And you are moving properly with lots of steps and not too much cardio, but just the right amount of cardio for your health. Those are the basics. We also have things like sleep and stress management, of course. But if you are in a fat loss phase, immediately within a week or two, you might notice the hunger start to ramp up. This is a very natural phenomenon. It's going to happen pretty much to anyone during fat loss due to a variety of reasons. The main reasons that I'm just going to cover real quick here before we get into some of the things you can do about it are going to be, let me move this out of the way, are going to be the fact that your body is deviating from its norm the more you put it into that energy deprived state. So you're reducing calories, your body just wants to get back to homeostasis. And physiologically, what happens is your fat cells shrink, and this sends a signal to your brain, your hypothalamus, that tells a hormone called leptin to decrease. Leptin is what makes you feel full. It says, yep, you've got enough food, you're good. It decreases. Ghrelin increases, you get hungrier. You also have lower carbs when you're in fat loss because you're keeping your protein high enough and your fats, and then your carbs tend to come down, which makes it harder to recover. It makes your workouts feel harder. It results in potential loss in muscle mass deeper into the fat loss phase, which also makes you hungrier. And then all of this leads to a hyper focus on food, not necessarily an unhealthy focus, just your body wanting to eat because you're telling it you don't have enough coming in. And so this messes with your mind, with your mental state, with your psychology. All of this is temporary, and all of this is to be expected during fat loss, which is why we want to get in and get out 12 to 16 weeks and at a certain rate of loss, having done everything right before you start. So what I want to go over quickly here, I'm not going to go over every single one of these, but I have 20 things that could help with hunger. Okay. And this could be overwhelming. So this is more of a reference cheat sheet. And if you want it, again, drop me a line below the video. I will reach out and I'll send you a link directly to this Google Doc. You know, no opt-in or anything like that. This is a really good list, and I'm just going to focus on a few things. So the first one I want to bring up, and these are kind of the things that people aren't aware of or don't think about. You know, we do talk about eating vegetables and fiber and drinking a lot of water and things like that to manage your hunger. But what if you combine them? What if you make vegetable or broth-based soups, things like zucchini, tomatoes, you know, various squash, and you could even throw some beans in there or whatever, along with protein, of course. I'm never going to say don't add protein. So if you want to have some meat in there or eggs or whatever, go for it. But vegetable and broth-based soups combine the hydration along with the vegetables and the fiber, all of which can ramp up the amount of volume that you get for very little calories. So this is a good lunchtime option when you're trying to go lighter earlier in the day and then maybe save up some of those calories for the bigger dinner or the carbs around your workout. So that's one interesting technique. The second one that I heard about from Eric Trexler that's pretty cool is to prioritize harder foods. So take anything you can eat. For example, potatoes. And I don't know if you know, but white potatoes are one of the highest, if not the highest, satiety foods. It fills you up the most. So for you carb haters out there, you know, one of the best foods during fat loss could actually be white potatoes. So, but instead of having mashed potatoes, have roasted or baked potatoes, right? And this tells your body that you have to chew, you have to chew more, you have to digest more. It tells your body that there's more there's more substance, and therefore you start to feel fuller. It turns off the hunger signals for some people. So anything where you can get a harder food, like a harder, more chewy cut of meat instead of soft, vegetables that are more fibrous, that take more to chew rather than overcooking them and making them really soft or blending them into a smoothie, eat them full. Instead of having whey protein, right, have more solid food sources of protein, and so on. All right. The third one I want to mention on the video today is not being dogmatic and so fixed in place with your macro balance. So yes, we need a certain amount of protein, somewhere around 0.7 to 1 gram per pound of body weight. And if you don't get nearly that much protein today, you shouldn't be in fat loss. Like, this is the kind of thing you want to take care of ahead of time. If you have questions about what I mean, again, drop me a line below. I'll explain how it works. But you want to have a decent amount of protein, and then the fats and carbs are pretty flexible. But what I often see is, as people get deeper into fat loss and they're 1,800, 1,500, even 1,300 or 1,400 calories, and the protein's high, it doesn't leave much room for the fats and carbs, and you start to get drained. You lose energy. You lose, your lifts in the gym start to stall out just because you don't have the carbs. It's okay to go down to 0.9, 0.8, 0.7 grams per pound of protein so that you can give some of that up to carbs or fats or carbs. So I've had female clients who are really low fat in their diet, and it actually becomes a hindrance during fat loss because you're down to like 20 something grams. We bump it up to 35, 40 grams, and all of a sudden you get this boost of energy. Could be definitely hormone related. So think about experimenting with toggling each of those macros, okay? Don't be dogmatic about any one thing, because you're in a temporary state here going after a goal. You have to make it work without sacrificing muscle mass, but there's usually a sweet spot for some people. Okay, the fourth of 5 things I wanted to cover from this list today is going to be using a distraction. So think about this. When you are engaged in something and you are not thinking about anything else, you're just working, or you're enjoying a hobby, you're playing an instrument, you're gardening, you might not even be hungry for hours, right? And yet you may actually be hungry if you stop. So think about how you can use this technique when you normally get hungry, like at the end of the day or on the weekends, to replace it with an activity that distracts you and gets you in that state of engagement and flow, which can also help with stress management and well-being. I have a client recently who started playing his accordion again. When he gets hungry, he just picks up the accordion. Like, that's his trigger now. Hunger trigger, pick up the accordion, start playing, the mind gets occupied, and the hunger goes away. Okay? There's definitely physiological hunger versus psychological hunger, and oftentimes it's psychological. Okay? And then the last thing I'm going to mention on this list is going to be a topic near and dear to me, and that is using planned deviations or refeeds. I just did a half-hour training on this that explained exactly the mistakes people make, why we use refeeds, how to use them in each phase of fat loss, and a way to develop your own personal refeed strategy if that's something you need. But the idea is simply that you're going to have some days that are higher than others, and you're going to make those work for your lifestyle. It may increase the calories overall for the week to be a smaller deficit than you normally have, or you shift the calories so the deficit stays the same. Either way, it's a tiny to negligible hit to your fat loss progress, but for the psychological relief of getting to eat a little bit more, including potentially some indulgences that you like. And then that allows you to continue, be consistent, and get the result you're looking for, which at the end of the day, consistency and adherence is number one. So I've got a whole bunch here. You don't have to rush to pause the video and try to read them all. You could just send me a link or drop me a line below this video, and I will send you this whole cheat sheet if you need it. All right.